Most men believe that the more they understand women, the safer they become. That belief is false and dangerous. Understanding her emotions does not protect you, it exposes you. And every time you expose yourself emotionally, something subtle but irreversible happens. Your psychological position weakens. By the end of this video, you will see why men who explain themselves lose respect, why emotional transparency quietly erodes authority, and why the man who seeks clarity often becomes the least respected presence in the room. Very few men ever perceive this mechanism while it is happening. Most only recognize it after attraction fades, after influence disappears, after they feel ignored without understanding why. If you ignore what comes next, you don't just lose attraction. You lose leverage, socially, emotionally, psychologically. Before going any further, ask yourself this, and answer honestly. How many times have you explained your intentions, your feelings, or your confusion, only to feel her interest cool down immediately afterward? Entering forbidden territory. This is not advice, this is not moral commentary, and it is not designed to make you feel understood. This is anatomy. Schopenhauer saw something the modern man refuses to accept. Nature does not reward emotional sincerity, it rewards functional stability. Love, stripped of illusion, is not ethical. It is strategic. First major revelation, mandatory early. Here is the truth most men never hear. Women do not respond to what you feel. They respond to what your behavior signals, and signals are not emotions. Signals are control, containment, and internal order. The moment a man externalizes emotional turbulence, he stops being a reference point and becomes a variable, something to be reacted to, not oriented around. Why explanation is weakness? Men explain themselves because they believe explanation creates understanding. In reality, explanation reveals need. Every emotional clarification transmits a message beneath the words, "I need you to understand me so I can feel stable." That message is never ignored. The instinct doesn't hear your reasoning. It reads your dependency. Practical contrast, the invisible divide. Observe two men. The first one explains. He clarifies intentions. He communicates feelings. He seeks emotional alignment. He believes honesty builds safety. The second one observes. He speaks less. He reacts slower. He does not rush to resolve emotional tension. The first man thinks he is building intimacy. In reality, he is exposing volatility. The second man creates tension without effort. Not by manipulation, but by not needing closure. One becomes predictable, the other becomes unreadable. And unreadability is not confusion. It is power. The cost of predictability. Predictability feels safe to men. To instinct, it feels boring. When a woman senses that your emotional state depends on her response, hierarchy collapses. This is not cruelty. It is structure. Instinct does not negotiate. It evaluates. And the evaluation is simple. Does his center hold under uncertainty? Second perception shift, mandatory before 7 min. Here is where most men finally lose the illusion. The problem was never her behavior. It was the invisible need behind yours. Women do not pull away because men are distant. They pull away because men leak psychological dependence. The moment she feels that her attention stabilizes you, respect dies quietly. Transition to deeper structure. This is the threshold most men never cross. They keep trying to understand women emotionally, never realizing that the real work was understanding the nature driving both sides. From here on, we go deeper, past attraction, past romance, past comfort, into the structure Schopenhauer warned about, and most men still serve blindly. Most men never escape the first layer of the problem. They believe the issue is attraction. They believe the issue is chemistry. They believe the issue is communication. All of that is surface noise. The real issue is position. Schopenhauer understood that human behavior is not guided by ideals, but by forces, blind forces, impersonal forces, forces that operate regardless of morality, intention, or fairness. Love is one of those forces, not because it is beautiful, but because it is useful. The modern man treats love as a personal experience. Schopenhauer treated it as a biological strategy. This difference alone explains why most men remain confused. When a man falls in love, He believes he is choosing. In reality, he is being used by the will of the species, used by instincts older than language, used by a system that does not care about his happiness, only about continuation. This is not an accusation, it is a diagnosis. The problem begins when the man confuses intensity with truth. Strong emotions feel meaningful, they feel authentic, they feel real. But intensity is not depth. Intensity is volatility, and volatility is never respected. Women do not consciously test men. They don't sit down and plan manipulation. Testing happens automatically, through silence, through delay, through ambiguity, through subtle withdrawal. Not to punish you, but to measure you. The instinctive question is never, does he care? It is, does he destabilize? A man who destabilizes under uncertainty communicates weakness without speaking. He reveals that his internal order depends on external response, and dependency is the most repulsive signal in any hierarchy. This is why explanation is dangerous. Explanation is not clarity, it is exposure. Every explanation reveals where you need reassurance. Every justification reveals where you seek permission. Every emotional confession reveals where you lack containment. The instinct reads all of it. Power does not announce itself. Power does not clarify. Power does not ask to be understood. Power is felt. And the moment a woman feels that your emotional equilibrium depends on her, the structure collapses. Not because she is cruel, but because nature eliminates instability. This channel, coded psychology, was never created to soothe. It exists to remove illusions. And one illusion must die here. The illusion that being understood gives you authority. It doesn't. Being unaffected gives you authority. The man who understands this does not become cold. He becomes still. Stillness is not emotional absence, it is emotional command. And emotional command is dominance. Schopenhauer called this lucidity pessimism. But pessimism here does not mean despair. It means liberation from fantasy, liberation from emotional bargaining, liberation from the need to be chosen. The man who no longer needs to be chosen becomes the one who chooses. And choice is the core of power. Women are not attracted to men who desire them. They are attracted to men who do not need them. Need creates pressure, creates predictability. Predictability kills desire. Containment creates tension. Tension creates gravity. Gravity is attraction. Most men destroy their position by trying to understand women emotionally. The correct move is to understand the nature operating through both of you. When you understand nature, you stop reacting. And when you stop reacting, the environment reorganizes itself around you, silently. The final illusion to break is this. You believe respect is earned through effort. It is not. Respect emerges from structure. A man with structure does not chase certainty. He tolerates ambiguity. He does not rush to resolve tension. He lets tension reveal truth. He does not ask for reassurance. He watches behavior. Love, for the undisciplined man, becomes slavery. Love, for the disciplined man, becomes choice. This is the difference. The man who needs love negotiates power away. The man who is complete without love attracts it without effort. Schopenhauer saw that the most dangerous trap for a man is his own vanity. He does not just want the woman, he wants confirmation that he is worthy, confirmation that he is chosen, confirmation that he matters. This desire to be confirmed is the most refined form of submission, because the moment you seek validation, you surrender position. The woman senses this immediately, not intellectually, instinctively. And when she senses it, she probes, she delays, she distances, she observes reactions. Not to manipulate, but to measure stability. The man who reacts fails the test. The man who remains centered passes without trying. This is why silence is dangerous to the unprepared. Silence reveals who you are without performance. The man who fills silence reveals insecurity. The man who holds silence reveals authority. The modern man is trained to perform, to say the right words, to show vulnerability, to explain intentions, to demonstrate emotional awareness. None of this impresses instinct. Instinct reads energy, not language, and language is the easiest thing to fake. Psychology confirms what Schopenhauer already knew. The need for validation is the root of emotional submission. The more a man tries to prove his value, the more he signals that he doubts it. This is the cruel symmetry. Trying harder makes you weaker. Containing yourself makes you magnetic. Control is attractive, not control over others, control over oneself. The man who controls his impulses controls the frame. He does not rush, he does not chase, he does not explain, he observes. And observation creates asymmetry. Women do not fear desire, they fear predictability. Predictability means loss of tension. Loss of tension means loss of interest. Stability does not mean availability. It means reliability without dependence. The man who understands this stops competing for attention. He stops performing. He stops seeking approval because he understands something fundamental. Attention depends on others. Respect depends on self-command. The man who tries to be noticed forces the gaze. The man who dominates the atmosphere commands silence. One is remembered for words. The other is remembered for presence. The difference between the actor and the author is this. The actor waits for applause. The author writes the scene and leaves. Most men live like actors. A few become authors. Women feel what is fake because instinct does not analyze arguments. It reads tone, and tone exposes truth faster than words. The man who stops explaining becomes unreadable. Unreadability creates projection. Projection creates fascination. Fascination creates attraction. The cruel truth is this. The more you try to prove your worth, the less worth you have. Because real value does not announce itself. It exists. When a man understands this, he stops playing to win. He starts observing to understand. And understanding changes the board without moving pieces. This is the highest form of power. Machiavelli understood this in politics. Schopenhauer understood it in life. There is no neutrality in human dynamics. You either understand structure, or you are ruled by it. The man who believes love is fair lives as a piece. The man who sees it as strategic moves as a player. The difference is not cruelty, it is clarity. Schopenhauer's so-called pessimism was not despair. It was freedom from illusion. When a man accepts that nature has no morality, he stops feeling betrayed. When he stops feeling betrayed, he stops reacting. When he stops reacting, he becomes dangerous. Understanding desire does not make you manipulative. It makes you immune to provocation, immune to emotional traps, immune to loss of frame. This immunity is real power in the modern world. The practical consequence is unavoidable. The man who stops needing love becomes sovereign. He does not chase, he does not cling, he does not negotiate his value. He radiates stability. The strongest men are not loud, they are dense. Their presence has weight. They do not need to dominate others. They dominate themselves. The metaphor is ancient. The lion does not explain its strength. It does not demand recognition. It simply exists, and existence reorganizes everything around it. The man who still needs to be understood lives like prey. The man who accepts the loneliness of clarity lives like a predator, not violent, but unshakable. The final realization is this: you were never meant to understand women emotionally. You were meant to understand yourself in front of them. The woman is not the enemy. She is the mirror. She reflects your instability. She exposes your need. She reveals your level of self-command. The man who masters himself stops fearing rejection. Rejection no longer threatens his identity. And when rejection loses its power, everything else shifts. Nietzsche said, "A man must have chaos within him to give birth to a dancing star." But chaos without command is destruction. Command without chaos is rigidity. The sovereign man integrates both. He does not suppress emotion, he disciplines it. He does not deny desire, he governs it. He does not flee solitude, he uses it. Schopenhauer called this the negation of the will. The moment a man stops being an instrument of instinct and becomes its observer, that moment is sovereignty. The sovereign man no longer seeks love as a cure. He transforms solitude into strength. Silence sharpens him. Distance refines him. Absence fortifies him. When he returns to the world, he returns different, calmer, heavier, more dangerous, because the man who learned to live without needing became invulnerable. At this point, the game ends, because the man who understands structure does not play. He watches, and watching is authority. The highest power is not dominance over others, it is independence from reaction. The man who reaches this state does not seek respect, he is respect. The illusion breaks. The enchantment fades, and what remains is clarity, silent, cold, unmovable.